Hi, welcome to the latest edition of Sigmalive English Hangouts. I'm joined here by Dimitrios Zopos, who is in Cyprus to speak about life-changing ideas, a project organised by the University of Nicosia. Dimitrios is here to speak about entrepreneurship and startups. Welcome, Dimitrios.
Thank you for having me.
If you can just start off by telling me what exactly is life-changing ideas.
Life-changing ideas is a series of speeches organized by the University of Nicosia with an aim to try and attract an audience and attract them to listening to interesting speakers in different topics across a range of things relevant for business.
Okay. And why is this relevant to Cyprus, particularly now in this period?
Cyprus has very little exposure to speakers, high-profile speakers in different areas, and I think it's a good chance. I think the University of Nicosia managed to attract 6 very prominent speakers in different areas, walks of life, and to give the people of Cyprus some exposure to them.
And what is the current state of the startup industry in Cyprus?
Yeah, so I'm not involved directly in that, but I have some links and some involvement with the startup community here. I think it's something that has been growing quite rapidly. More recently, especially since the financial crisis, I think a lot of people have been more interested in the world of startups, especially the ones that involve the use of technology.
How important has it been for the government in Cyprus? They've publicly expressed their intention to promote more startups in Cyprus. That must obviously be a very important step.
Of course, yeah. I think it's a great idea to have the government backing this, and I think the more they can show support through financing and also incubation of startups and any other support they can provide. I think it's a great start, because it also impacts many sectors in the economy. Anything that involves technology obviously impacts all sectors of technology of the economy over time.
And how important is the European Union's help as well, particularly with the Juncker plan approval?
Well, they say every little helps. I think it's a good idea to have the support of the EU, but that's not sufficient. I think it's a good first step, but you need way more than that. I think you need more private investment in startups to get a more buoyant community of new businesses, new ideas emerging as viable businesses.
And during your speech, what is the number one goal you want to achieve with your speech?
Yeah, in my speech, I'm focusing on the way I framed it is to starting something from nothing. I've been involved in the world of startups for the past 15 plus years, and I have a lot of experience. And unlike other speakers, I'm focusing more around my own personal experiences in the world of startups. I'm not approaching this from an academic point of view, but I'm approaching more from a point of view of what I've learned by being involved in the past 15 years in 4 different startups, and what makes early stage technology-backed startups different to other types of businesses. There's many businesses which are startups, but what makes technology-backed startups different is, first of all, the application of technology in its service or product. That's the first thing. The second thing is the fact that it's very rapid growth, something that you don't see in other businesses. And also I would say the third thing is also the fact that it involves innovation, some form of innovation in a business model. So those 3 things make technology-backed startups a very different beast to normal businesses.
And aside from technology, where are the other sectors where you believe more startups could emerge from?
Yeah, in Cyprus, I mean, there's no reason why you cannot have a viable business that serves an international market, because the beauty of technology is that you can have products and services which are delivered through the web. And I think the internet has been a huge source of new business model innovation, and it doesn't really matter where you're located. You can be, for example, a Cyprus company, you can be distributing services and products internationally without regard to the local market. So the beauty of internet-based startups is they don't have to be addressing just the local market or a single sector. It could be, for example, a travel-related startup, or it could be, for example, a software as a service startup, and they could be equally delivered or produced from a country like Cyprus.
So for somebody that is interested in starting their own startup, what is your number one advice to them?
Look, I generally don't like giving advice to people. I like to give people my personal experience because I think everybody's different. I think people learn in different ways. But the most important thing is to, in my view, is to avoid or go around the fear of failure. A lot of things that hold people back from doing their own thing usually is fear of failure. And I think different countries have got different cultural norms. And I think Cyprus has been quite conservative in some aspects of this. I think people were, at least my generation, were more happy to go and follow a much more traditional path towards their own career development, and were much more fearful of starting something new that might fail. And I would say that if you overcome the fear of failure, I think you will find success.
And for people that don't have the funding to start their own startup, how difficult is it to actually obtain that funding? And are there any places where you recommend people should look at to secure this funding?
Look, it's becoming easier and easier. It's certainly easier now than it was 20 years ago. Tech startups are now much more established as a genre of business in a way that they weren't 20 years ago. And I would say that one of the characteristics of these types of startups is that you don't need much funding to get started. You can do a proof of concept, get to a place that you can prove whether something works at the rudimentary level without much funding, and that can be readily found from friends, family, angel investors. And increasingly so, there's government grants, there's incubators, there's other entities in the startup ecosystem that can help you do that. It's not that difficult to raise some seed funding if you have a good idea and a team.
And last question, do you think the business community here in Cyprus, do you think they could do more, or are they doing enough? What's your opinion on that?
Look, I think there has to be some sort of personal interest, I would say, for what they do. I think the interest for the series of speeches here is that they can find out more, at least from my speech, in terms of what can they learn from the tech startup community, its norms, the way they go about things, and apply them to their own business. Especially larger, more established brands or businesses that have been going on for years generally find it harder to innovate. And what they can learn from the world of startups is how can they start new things and new ideas, incubate new ideas in a simpler, faster, easier way. But in terms of are they doing enough to support the startup community, I think they can always do more. It's always easy to fall back into doing what you're used to and following your own sort of business as opposed to starting something new. But I think that there are ways of structuring that makes it easier for especially larger businesses to innovate.
Okay, and for viewers that would be interested to hear your and watch your speech, if you could please just tell them where and when they can.
Yeah, the speech will be on the 23rd of January at the University of Nicosia, and you're welcome. Details are on the website. Please turn up.
Thank you, Dimitrios.
Very welcome.